Welcome back to the session on Darwin's theory of natural selection. And we already mentioned that theory of natural selection is based on five important concepts. One is variation, another is geometric increase in population, the third is struggle for existence, fourth is the survival of the fittest, and then the species formation. Okay, so we already discussed variations among individuals, the various types of variations as mentioned by Darwin. Then geometric increase in population in a normal condition. Struggle for existence, we are discussing about this. It is under optimum condition when all the factors are optimum. Obviously, the population may increase in a geometric fashion and it may overcrowd on the earth. But in a normal condition, in a natural condition, this never happens because animals can never multiply to such an extent because of many reasons, because of many kinds of checks, limitations, etc. For example, competition for food, shelter, breeding places, mates, diseases, due to diseases, predation, etc. And animals compete with each other in intraspecific struggle and and also with the members of other species like in interspecific struggle. And what is it for? It is for the requirements, the normal requirements like food, space, breeding requirements, etc. And this competition is what is referred as the struggle for existence. So there are three main kinds of struggles. One is intraspecific struggle, then the interspecific struggle, then there is environmental struggle. Okay, intraspecific struggle, it is a competition between individuals of the same species for similar requirements. Okay, because members of the a particular population or a species will have similar kind of requirements. So obviously, when the population increases, the members may have to compete with each other for the same resources. Okay, for example, seedlings of of a particular tree. Okay, growing in clusters under just imagine the seeds may have fallen from a tree and these seeds starts to grow into seedlings and they start to cluster around the parent tree. So these seedlings, they compete among themselves for the same kind of resources, for example light, moisture, food, etc. Similar thing happens in animal world as well. Okay, so this is what is referred as an intraspecific struggle. Now interspecific struggle, it is a competition between members of different species living together. Okay, for example, if two different species have similar requirements, obviously what happens is there will be competition. For example, like birds and frogs feeding on insects, obviously there will be competition for insects among these two populations. Okay, now the third kind is the environmental struggle. Environmental struggle is a competition between the animals and the environmental factors, especially the non-biotic factors. Okay, for example, animals may have to survive under certain environmental hazards such as drought, extremes of heat and cold, then shortage of food, water, or lack of shelter, even certain diseases. Okay, and maybe like natural calamities. So all these are considered as environmental struggles. So the struggle for existence, it is a continuous process in nature, and these operate at any stage of life history. That is among eggs. Okay, if just imagine about with respect to insects, when they lay eggs, it may be in cluster, the eggs may be eaten up by certain predators. Okay, so there is again struggle. Okay, predation, so it is again struggle. Then passing on to the next stage, the larval stage, basically that may be eaten up by birds. Again, predation, struggle, food supply may be less. So all these are again, so there can be natural stresses at any stages of life history from egg to adult stage. So an individual is said to be successful in this kind of a struggle only when it survives long enough to reproduce its own kind. So an individual is considered to be successful in the struggle for existence if it can pass through the whole his life stages and then reach the reproducing stage, and it can reproduce the next generation. Okay, live next generation, if it is reproduced, obviously that particular species or the individual is considered to be successful. Okay, now the next is the survival of the fittest. So Darwin assumed that in the struggle for existence, the organisms with favorable variations only can survive, only can become successful. Okay, their offsprings will also carry over the favorable variations. Because of that particular advantage, the favorable variations will be passed on to the next generation, are handed down to the successive generations by reproduction. So this process was termed as the survival of the fittest by Herbert Spencer. Okay, so Herbert Spencer was the person who actually coined that particular usage, survival of the fittest. The animals with unfavorable variations, on the other hand, they will eventually get disappeared, or it will get vanished. Thus, variation and heredity, together with the struggle for existence, bring about what is referred as the natural selection. Okay, so natural selection is not actually a process wherein the variation among the population, as well as the inheritance of the favorable characters to the next generation, plus the struggle for existence, resulting in the natural selection. Okay. So natural selection is simply differential survival or reproduction of favorable variations, or favor those individuals with a favorable variation. So the process of survival of organisms with favorable variations and the removal of the unfavorable ones, it is known as the natural selection. Okay. Now, the survival of the fittest is thus it is the result of natural selection, whereby organisms in time become more and more perfectly adapted to the environmental conditions for their life. Okay, so now what is actually fittest here referred to? Okay, it is actually the biological fitness. Okay, as already mentioned, when an individual can have like viable offsprings, and can have most number of offsprings, those organisms are referred as biologically fit. Okay, so strongest and fittest, actually the fittest in natural selection theory does not mean it is strongest or most healthiest. Okay, but in natural selection, fitness is the success of producing viable or the fertile offsprings, so that the particular species can be continued. Okay, so individuals having most offsprings are considered to be the most fit or the fittest ones. An organism that is fit in the general sense is also fit in the biological sense. But I hope it is clear. Okay, but there. Okay, in some, for example, um, mule. Actually, it is a hybrid of horse and donkey, isn't it? But mule is sturdier and more resistant to diseases than horse and donkey, but it is sterile. Okay, mule is a sterile offspring of horse and donkey, but mules are more what you call stronger and sturdier than their parents. But still, mules are considered to be unfit from the evolutionary point of view, because it cannot give rise to the next generation. Okay, so I hope it is clear. Fine. Now the next one is the origin of species. Okay, according to Darwin, all these processes we have mentioned will continue to operate in succeeding generations, making the species more perfectly adapted to the environmental situations. So when there is a change in the environment, there will also occur a corresponding change in the adaptations. So what happens is, the natural selection will also get changed accordingly. So organisms that cannot develop suitable new variations or adaptations in any particular environment or in any changing environment will be soon getting eliminated. So Darwin, as per Darwin, the differential reproduction of variants can gradually lead to the origin of species in the changing environmental conditions, and also the disappearance of species in the past geological time. For example, Darwin had studied Darwin's finches very elaborately. He had studied Darwin's finches, or it is known as the Galapagos finches. Okay, how the evolution has brought about the changes in the variants in the finches. Darwin almost observed 13 species of Darwin's finches, and in the Galapagos Islands, and all of them. Later, Darwin, when studied all his observations, he found that all these were originated by modifications from a common ancestor from the mainland. Sorry, okay, from the mainland of South America. Okay, so all these have come from common ancestral stock which reached the island from the South American mainland, right? And each species developed peculiar adaptations for its particular environment. For instance, you can see each of these. Okay, we have tree finches are there, ground finches are there, babbler finches are there. Okay, one example, if we take the cactus ground finch, here you can see. Okay, the cactus ground finch, they develop a long straight beak for taking nectar out of the flowers, right? While vegetarian tree finches, the tree finches are there. Here, these are the cactus ground finches. The vegetarian finch over here actually develop a curved parrot-like beak to feed on buds and fruits. So Darwin believed that different environments can produce different species from the members of a single species by the accumulation of small favorable variations under the force of natural selection. So you can see here, this is the ancestral stock. Okay, the same ancestral stock had given rise to different kinds of finches, and the most important modifications it is with respect to the beak. The modifications in the beak is due to the food they depend on. Okay, so it is based upon their food feeding habit. They have made the variations. Okay, and these variations, because it was favorable to the species or to the individuals, it was passed on to the next generation. And finally, after plenty of generations, what happened is a new species was evolved. Okay, so in this manner, Darwin believed that the great number of species. Okay, here the ancestral stock will be diverged by small differences into subspecies or varieties initially. Okay, so initially during the course of evolution from the common ancestral stock, a few individuals may have developed smaller differences, and these smaller differences may have led to the development of a variety or a subspecies. And later, when these were isolated from each other, that is, just imagine from a single ancestor, maybe like 3 or 4 varieties may have been formed after a few generations. When these varieties were isolated from each other for a longer period of time, each of the variety became species that could not later interbreed with the members of the other group. Okay, so a continuation of such divergence in time would lead to the production of wider differences at the level of genus or higher level in the hierarchical classification. So in this manner, Darwin believed that the great number of species and larger categories of animal kingdom had been established through long duration of geological time, and it is not never a single step process. Okay, so this is Darwinism explained through the theory of natural selection.